I have a question. I talked to Paul.
Okay.
I talked to Paul Feinbaum yesterday. I'm trying to get him on my podcast. I said, "How does Saban get crankier the richer he gets and the more he wins?"
Yeah.
Is he? I'm just theorizing. He's sensing his legacy back 9. It frustrates him. It never worked at the next league. Or am I off base?
Well, I think I'll start with the fact that I believe this is a little philosophy for you. I think that rudeness is a weak man's imitation of strength. Okay? That's from Eric Hoffer. And that quote sums up what we saw yesterday in that rant that Nick Saban gave on the first day of spring football to a question from the media. And my problem with that is that it was just flat rude, and there was no reason for it. Nick Saban is powerful enough within the sport. I think he's the most powerful person in college football, personally.
Yeah.
Okay? It's our sport, my sport. It's the one I cover, the one I follow. I think Nick Saban is the best coach in college football. I think he's the most powerful person, individual
Best
in
recruiter.
the sport. He's the best recruiter. He's a lot of things, right? He's a powerful guy. And if he has a problem with a rule that the NCAA has passed, then make that the focal point of the comment. Okay, so you take on the NCAA, Nick. Don't use somebody else as a soapbox and get on their back and demean them and belittle their intelligence in order to make a point. You don't need that. I think Nick Saban is better than that. And yesterday, what happened in that press conference, I thought was unfortunate because he takes a question that wasn't a statement. The question was simply, hey, are you moving more towards a ball control offense? It's
There's
a fair question.
million ways to answer that question. He went the rude route.
Absolutely. And it's a fair question based on the fact that they lost the time of possession by close to 10 minutes in the national championship game. They had 99 snaps ran against them from Clemson in the national championship game. That's a fair question. If you want to get snarky about the question, that's fine. But don't belittle the intelligence of the reporter, the intentions of the reporter. It's a fair journalistic question. Nick Saban was mad about a rule, Colin, that he claimed was just a few people shouting, and he's wrong about that. I just wanted to clarify this. Nick Saban is wrong about the fact that just a few people are clamoring for the rule change. The NCAA has enacted now a rule that says that high school coaches cannot bring a kid to camp or be involved and employed by a university within this 2-year period where their player or a player they're in contact with is being recruited or committed to that school. Okay? That is a fair rule. Now, there are some unintended consequences, like the fact that high school coaches will no longer be able to work or be employed by a university in a summer camp when those players are in the summer camp. Does that make sense?
Yes.
That was a widely passed rule by the AFCA, the American Football Coaches Association. And their conference happened between January 8th and January 11th. And the reason Saban wasn't there is because January 9th, he was playing Clemson in the national championship game. So he went off about this thing about, the few people that are shouting about this, and now it becomes a rule. He's wrong on that. That was widely passed. And this is an unintended consequence that they're going to have to deal with at a later date, this fact that coaches won't be around those camps. So that's kind of the genesis of what he was mad about. My problem is, don't use a poor reporter to do that. Like, you're bigger than that, Nick Saban. Stop.
When you have power, somebody once told me, it should be used with discretion.
Sure.
Like Jackie Gleason was a legendary, and he used to be the biggest guy in Hollywood, he and Carson. And I remember reading quotes about that. He said, if you really have power, you don't have to use it. People understand you have it, and they open doors for you. Like, Nick too often has to use power, and we know he has it, so why use the club?
He didn't have to in this case.
Yeah.
And some more insight into the press conference, and this is why, again, I have more of a problem with it than most people are leading on. He gets way too much of a pass, first of all. Greg Popovich gets a pass. Clint Hurdle, I've had personal experience with, is a jerk to reporters at times. These guys don't need to use this tactic. They're good men that don't need to use this type of tactics. Here's what went on yesterday, just so that you know. Cecil Hurt, who's a well-respected Alabama journalist and covers the team down there in the space. And I've dealt with Cecil on a limited basis. He's a good guy.
Yeah, smart guy.
Nick respects him and understands that the fans respect Cecil. Cecil was actually the one that asked the first question in the press conference. And you could tell that Saban was a little on edge, but he didn't jump on Cecil's back.
He jumped on the weaker.
That's right. And that's bullying. okay, and say what you want about bullying. That's just, you don't need to do that when you're the second highest paid coach in all of college football.
In a state that doesn't have huge incomes, where you're a monster in a state.
That's right. And now he's going to belittle a guy's intelligence, his intent. That's wrong. And I think Nick Saban is better than that. And he should be called out for it. I don't care what time of year it is. I don't care how many championships he's won. He's a great coach that behaved really poorly yesterday.
Okay, Mitch Trubisky, I don't see it. Everybody else apparently does. I think all these quarterbacks, Deshaun Watson's the guy I would take, and even he I don't think is a great thrower.
Yeah.
I don't think he has a great arm when I watch him. I think they're all kind of C guys. I thought last year the guys I thought Paxton Lynch, Jared Goff, and who's the other guy? Carson Wentz, all had a chance to be B+ to B- guys. Yeah. I think it's a lower threshold this year. What do you make of Trubisky's pro day?
I would agree with you on the lower threshold, and are you okay if I bristle a little bit at the whole pro day question?
Sure.
I mean, you're supposed to do well at pro day.
Kyle Bowler knocked his out of the park.
And so did Jamarcus Russell. In fact, if you talk with many scouts and personnel people around the league, they'll tell you that the most impressive quarterback pro day that they ever witnessed was Jamarcus Russell. So remind me again why anyone cares about pro day. By the way, one of the ones that I witnessed that was a huge struggle for this player was Teddy Bridgewater. Do you remember when that was a big deal?
Yeah.
And Teddy Bridgewater has had a lot of success in the league to the point where his teammates are crying when he goes down in camp last year and their season is essentially lost.
On this tape I'm seeing right now, I say this about Trubisky. He's a big, thick kid.
He is, and he's fast. He's athletic. He was one of the top dual threat recruits coming out of high school. His experience is going to hurt him. Here's my take on all these quarterbacks, and Trubisky falls right in this. I don't think any of them are ready to start right away. So if you're a Cleveland Browns and you need a guy right now, none of the three are a guy that you should take, at least in my estimation. So if you're going the developmental route and you're the Arizona Cardinals or something, I would always go for potential. So this becomes like a real estate decision. I know you like analogies, so I'm going to make an analogy for you.
Right.
If you can't find a move-in ready house and you have to move into a house that needs work or renovation, don't you always have to look for upside value and potential of the property?
Of course.
You don't walk in and pay full price for something that you're going to dump a lot of money into. Well, in that case, the guy with the best potential is Deshawn Kaiser. So is he the best prospect for this year? Probably not.
But he's the biggest, strongest top arm.
That's right. And he's got the most potential. So if you've got three fixer-uppers, I'm going to rate the guy highest that has the highest potential. That's why my rating is Deshawn Kaiser number 1 as far as quarterbacks, Watson number 2, and Trubisky 3.
He's your 21st century 21 dealer, Joel Klatt. Okay, give me your sleeper. Give me your Dak Prescott.
Yeah.
What quarterback is going to go in the 5th round and is going to stick in this league?
I think, well, first, you got to have two things, ability and swagger, because you're going to have to be a guy that's unheralded, like a Tom Brady that comes in, or a Dak Prescott, and can command the locker room.
Okay.
So you got to look for swagger and ability. Chad Kelly from Ole Miss.
Yeah, no, he beat Alabama.
He beat Alabama. This guy believes he can play. If you don't like his attitude, it's probably going to be an asset in this situation where you're a middle round pick and you're going to be looked at to come in and maybe command a huddle. The thing I love about him on the field, he's an anticipatory thrower. Okay, so he is a guy that doesn't wait for open windows in order to release the ball like most college players do. He's faced very good competition down there. He's beat Bama a couple of times. Great thrower of the ball, tough, and I love the swagger. So I would say the next Dak Prescott could be a guy like Chad Kelly from Ole Miss.
You recently came out with a list of first-round NFL talent with baggage.
Yeah.
What do you like, Joe Mixon, for instance? What do you make of the baggage guys?
Well, so there are guys with baggage, and then there are guys that are going to back up like a moving truck. And Joe Mixon is in the moving truck category in terms of baggage, things he's bringing, distractions that he's bringing to your organization.
Though.
He's very good talent. And so at some point, the talent's going to outweigh all of this extracurricular things that he's bringing to your organization. So, Colin, I think he would be a great fit for an organization that's got a strong culture and locker room. If you've got a culture and locker room that can deal with distractions quickly and then silence them very quickly and immediately and put them out of your sight and just move forward, he'd do great. So I'm looking at teams with great top-line quarterbacks that can deflect and coaches that have been there for a while. So
New
Orleans, New England, these types of places are places where the distraction of Joe Mixon will be limited based on the culture of the organization. He's not going to go to Dallas, but for instance, in a place like Dallas, it'd be terrible because he'd be like gasoline on a fire. Every story is bigger in Dallas, and it gets out and leaked out in Dallas. I think Cleveland would be a terrible spot for him. I think Cincinnati would be a terrible spot for him, and they've shown interest. So situational fit is going to be most important for Mixon and his NFL franchise that decides to get over that hump of the assault and violence issues that have barred his past.
Okay, I got a couple questions here I don't want to ask you. I want to ask you the serious one because I have no life. I already have my top 5 for next year. I do my top 4 and the one team left out.
So are we talking teams or draft
teams?
Picks? Okay, college teams next year. Go ahead.
Florida State's my number 1 team in the country. They're going to beat Alabama in the opener.
I mean, they could. I think Alabama will open number 1. But you're saying Florida State's going to beat them in the opener?
At the end of I looked at all the schedules 2-3 weeks ago, all the returning people. These are the best teams in the country. Florida State's going to win the national title.
Okay.
I've got Bama 2, USC 3, Penn State 4, and Ohio State and Michigan just miss out. Michigan.
You're missing a huge one.
Well, don't give me Oklahoma.
100% Oklahoma.
Oh, come on. I'm so tired of that.
Well, be tired of it all you want. They were in the playoff 2 years ago, almost made the playoff
they
this
play
last
flag
year.
football on defense.
That's not entirely incorrect.
I can't go.
They're going to have a really good offensive line, though, and their secondary should be better. I'm just saying, you got to include Oklahoma, but you're not far off. Watch out for a team like Florida, who I think is very good. I think Wisconsin could have a really good team, but you're right on with the Penn States of the world, the USCs of the world, I think, and Washington. Those would be the teams that would round out kind of my top 10.
How good is the Big Ten going to be?
Oh.
I mean,
and
you're talking
Michigan State's not going to be down for long now.
No.
They're
And by the way,
bounce right
Paul
back.
Chris has been terrific at Wisconsin. Penn State, Michigan. I took Penn State because I like their schedule. I like their quarterback's ability to. He's a little
McSorley's a really good player.
Yeah, and I think I think he's more consistent sometimes better than JT Barrett. And I love Michigan, but I just don't love their quarterback spot. I don't know what I'm getting.
It shouldn't matter all that much for Harbaugh because it doesn't matter where he's been or who he's had at the quarterback position. He's won. And another thing I'll say about Jim Harbaugh, wherever he's been, it doesn't matter. He just wins. Think about it. He loses Toby Gerhart. They continue to win at Stanford. He puts in that winning culture. He won at the San Francisco 49ers. He won at San Diego University.
He just kind of plays to his strengths.
He plays to his strengths. He's going to win this year. There's no doubt. That division is the best division in all of football.
Loaded.
It's completely loaded. And I'm telling you, Michigan State is just a sleeper there because that's a really good, proud program that had a down year, and they won't be down for long.